So they would be invisible to us, or we might see them occasionally as quantum noise, and that may well be the origin of quantum noise. So you end up with a system which you can think of like a stack of sheets of paper, and one sheet of paper is like our physical universe. The particles on that sheet of paper are the ones that are synchronized with each other. We call that physical reality. That's what our current physics tries to explain. That's where our laws are applicable. But you can have many, many other sheets of paper with these other parallel systems that are synchronized a little bit differently. Now, what raising the gauge and paranormal phenomena and torsion and these other forces that I've been talking about, what they do is they shift our little sheet of paper. So now we start to move down and dip down and interact with other parallel systems. And that's what happens when you can start now to, instead of being limited to a four-dimensional reality, your dimensionality now can be 5, 6, or 7 dimensions as you interact with other parallel systems. When that happens, strange things become possible that were not possible before.
According to the synchronized universe model, when our own frequency synchronizes with a parallel universe or dimension, it allows us to perceive it in the form of a vision, powers of levitation, miracles, knowledge, enlightenment, and even healing. Our bodies are made of atoms and subatomic particles. 99.9% of our body weight is comprised of protons and neutrons, which are then made of hexagons of 6 quarks, each made of dual pairs. Among the quarks are the mysterious strange and anti-strange quark. They are called strange because they have the ability to randomly just disappear from the core of the atom and then strangely reappear. There is no mathematical model to quantify the timing of when and why they will do this. Is there a connection to the behavior of the strange quark and human consciousness? Knowing that we are also made of a significant percentage of strange quarks, that portion of us is dematerializing and rematerializing at random all of the time. No one has been able to determine where the strange quarks travel to, other than the fact that they disappear into other dimensions and reappear. Do they travel to other dimensions to gain information or to communicate at a distance? This behavior demonstrates that part of our consciousness does travel into other dimensions. Can this help explain communication at a distance and mental telepathy? In the 1970s, President Carter, the CIA, and the Air Force used 2 psychics trained in remote viewing to locate a lost Russian Tu-22 bomber, which no other forces could find. The remote viewers gave blind latitude-longitude coordinates that led Air Force officials to point their satellite cameras deep into the jungles of Africa, precisely where the Russian Tu-22 had crashed.
The significance of the case where Carter talks about how remote viewers were used to find the missing bomber that had gone down in the jungle shows that remote viewing can be very accurate and can be useful. Now his comments about the case were a little bit of an oversimplification. There was more than one remote viewer actually involved. They do it several times to check one another. But the fact is that remote viewing, number one, can be very accurate, and number two, was really used for important cases over an extended period of time. And even though they claim that it's finished and there's no more remote viewing going on, that's what they said before they admitted that this program was there too. So you can make your own conclusions about that. The point is that consciousness really can be used to give us information that might otherwise be unobtainable.
Later, in 1979, Congressman Charles Rose, then chairman of the House Subcommittee on Intelligence Evaluation, reviewed the U.S. government's secret psychic spy program. He then warned that if the Russians had this ability and we didn't pursue it further, we would be in serious trouble.
Well, there's certainly plenty of evidence that the out-of-body programs were going on, the remote viewing programs were going on. What has been made public is the 20-year remote viewing program that was started by the CIA in the 70s that physicist Hal Puthoff and a couple other people started. And they found out from their early experiments they could go into laboratories in Russia. One of the first laboratories was at Semipalatinsk, which the CIA at that time had been unable to look into. They saw a building, large structures, a lot of activity, but they could not tell what it was being used for. And so one of the first successes that started the program was when a man named Pat Price remote viewed the inside of the facility. He saw overhead cranes. He saw overhead cranes moving along overhead outside of the building that had railroad tracks on each side of the building. He saw these huge steel spheres that were being cut with special types of welding techniques. They were foot-thick steel sections of spheres. We have no way of, at that time, of welding such large structures, but they developed a technique to do so. And by using his remote viewing ability, he figured out that these were going to become large underground spheres to capture the energy from explosions and then use that energy to make a beam weapon. This was part of the Russian beam weapon program. And of course, in the 80s, Ronald Reagan started the Star Wars program in an effort to counteract some of this technology. But the first inkling we had that the Russians were involved in this was Pat Price's remote viewing back in 1974-75.
While the United States nuclear weapons program, peak in evolution, was a 15-megaton nuclear bomb, the Russians were far superior, testing a 50-megaton hydrogen bomb on October 30th, 1961. Was Russian psychic espionage into the United States secret weapons program instrumental in allowing them to gain the advantage? Today, with the Cold War at its end, Russian psychic research is used for mostly peaceful means. Konstantin Korotkov is a professor of physics at St. Petersburg Tech University in Russia. He is the inventor of the world's first camera that can see deep into the human aura's energy field and information band. It is called the GDV. The computer software reads the data the GDV provides on an individual's auric field. It can see breaks in the energy field, early signs of damage to organs, and changes in the field due to higher states of consciousness, the amplitude of energy coming out of all 7 energy centers, how well the 7 energy centers communicate with each other, and even mental telepathy and healing.
So it was really a very interesting time because we were able to organize a research laboratory, a research center outside of the city in some remote place. We took a house. In this house we put all possible equipment that we were able to think of by that time. And we've been selecting and inviting people who was really talented clairvoyants and talented psychic people. And then we trained them how to operate with each other, how to deal with telepathic communications, and we've been measuring all this process. So it was many sessions like this, several years. It was very interesting results. And everything we published secret reports on this, of course. It never been published in any journal, but we have proven that telepathic communication with people is really possible. And it was done on very precise scientific basis. But our approach was different from approach of Russell Targ or some other researchers in the world.